Okay, so hi, my name is Jeannie, and this is the podcast Dreams to Reality. And I have a special guest, Egan Sanders, who I met uh, 2 years ago in Denver when I was living there for a couple months. So, Egan, can you introduce yourself? And um, yeah, just introduce yourself.
My name is Egan.
Okay.
How was that? You already introduced me. My name is Egan, and I'm an intuitive counselor and coach, and the creator of Attracted, the Law of Attraction game. How's that?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Actually, when I met you in Denver, I actually participated in your game. It's a law of attraction board, Attracted, and it was really cool. And I actually still have the game, and
Mm,
I played it actually with a group in Denver.
mm,
Played it with a
that's
group
right.
in Denver, and so they were really interested in doing it, but I had to leave the place. But I did connect them with your website and stuff like.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so since we're into the same things, which is living the life of your dreams, so I just want you to give me a little background on how you started on this journey on, and where were you before you started the game, and you just living your life, or your dream life right now. Um, yeah.
Well, I think, when you describe living the dream life, you discuss clarity and repetition and intention, aligned action, all those things. It's about being conscious. So if you ask me how I really got my start, I would say when I was 19, I decided to drop out of college. I got fascinated by spirituality and metaphysics, and I said, "Well, why am I in school? I'd rather be, studying this other stuff." So that's when I consider that I got on my quote unquote conscious spiritual journey, and I was fascinated by it. One of the first books I read was The Nature of Personal Reality by Jane Roberts, who was a very famous channel in the 1960s and 70s. She wrote many, many books, and Seth primarily talked about creating your reality, your body, all these different things. And over that time, over 30 some odd years, I just studied the law of attraction from every different angle. Sometimes I created amazing things, like I'd be like, wow, I created that. Other times I felt very stuck. Sometimes I was consistent, sometimes I was inconsistent, sometimes I was conscious, sometimes I was unconscious. And what happened in about 2017 was I kind of hit a wall. I had created a lot of good things in my life, but then I felt like stuck. I felt like it had become like a real chore to create my reality. And I was, worrying about it and trying to get to the next level. And the turning point for me was I saw a little kid playing with his father. The father had made a airplane out of a little King Soopers receipt, which people in your area or other parts of the world don't know what King Soopers is. It's a supermarket. So made a little airplane, and the little kid who was throwing it, the little kid is like, "Oh, so happy, so happy." And I just was watching them. And after several throws, the kid was so happy, he had crumpled up. He would grab the airplane, he would crumple it up, and it was a ball. But the father was still throwing the ball down. The kid was so happy. And I said, "Oh, I wish I was as happy as that kid, when I'm trying to create my reality." And I said, "Oh, what if I made it a game?" And that's when I got the idea in that moment. And so that was 2017. I wrote out the basic game steps, and which eventually became, the game positions in the card. And from there, it all sort of developed.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I think that's the thing, when I've been doing this for a while, the manifestation, living the life of your dreams since consciously 2012. um,
Mm,
yeah, it does become like a tour, and I think the playfulness is the key, because sometimes it's like, what is it all for? It's to have fun, and it's to really enjoy your reality. And I did hit a wall, like also 2 years ago I hit a wall. I was just manifesting things, but it all dissolved. I started from
mm,
scratch, and made me
mm,
realize, like, um, I looked internally as well, and made me realize, like, yeah, because it became so heavy. It became like a chore. It wasn't magical anymore, and I had to literally go back to myself and start from that place of it has to be magical. And right now, so my daily reality is I'm having fun, you know? Yeah.
Magical. Yeah, you said an important word. So it's, I noticed that, like, I've written a lot. I wrote a couple of books. I've had some things published and articles and things like that. Now, if I'm writing for myself and I'm kind of just like enjoying it or whatever, it's fun. But now if somebody comes to you and says, okay, Egan, we need this book or we need this article by this time, then it's like pressure and I have to effort, and is it going to be good enough? So I feel like children are magical. And when we get in touch with that inner child within ourselves and we're creating our reality consciously, I'm just looking at you scratching your bacon that you're he's like so happy because you're just itching and right in the right place. But when I'm creating from a magical place, a happy place, and I'm just kind of making it up, I feel happy. A lot of times in spirituality, whether if you're trying to attain enlightenment or trying to apply the law of attraction or lose weight or attract a soulmate, I notice that a lot of people get very, very serious. They tighten up. So what I eventually shifted over to is I don't really do affirmations and spiritual processes. I call them all games. So, and when I call just a game, my mind goes, oh, I can relax. There's no pressure and I don't have to make it perfect. And so I can add the fun aspect of it, But sometimes, and your listeners will probably relate to this, sometimes when you're really trying to create something that you've never had before, yeah, you are tense. Like you're like, I want to have it. You're anxious, but relaxing, just having fun with it makes a world of difference. And I'm sure Bacon would agree. He goes, yes.
Yeah, he's always part of the. I mean, he was. And then
he's dressed better than I am.
He likes the attention.
He does.
Yeah, and I actually manifested this dog too.
Really?
Yeah. Before he was born, actually, I said I wanted a dog that looks exactly like that, and like it was playful and stuff. And I swear he looks exactly like the picture of the dog that I wanted. It's a long story. Yeah, so it really does tell you that as long as you really know what you want. So can you explain more to the listeners and the viewers, like what role does clarity have in manifesting the life of your dreams?
Well, if what I find is that you need to have a goal really to manifest anything, whether you call it intention, goal, objective, whatever, prize, whatever you're trying to do, the thing, the object, the feeling you want. It's essential to have clarity. And so when I actually play Attracted, the way we actually play it is we first set a goal. We write down a goal. We call it a goal statement, which is like what you want to manifest and how you want to feel when you get it. We have a card that gives you the steps on how to do it. And that actually is the most difficult part of the game. So I might have to spend 5 or 10 minutes with a person if I'm playing a one-on-one game or coaching them and help people refine, their goal. Because if you're kind of unclear, you'll wander. Like if somebody says, I want a lot of money. Well, that's like getting in a car and saying, I want to drive somewhere. But if you say, I'm now financially independent and free, or I now have my ideal job, or I now have a huge surplus of money to invest, spend, share, and enjoy, that's a clear goal. That's a clear direction. So when you say intention or clarity, to me, it's like direction. Where are you going? Sometimes people just like to jump in a car and they'll say, I'm just going to cruise around, and that's fine. And sometimes you can discover amazing things that way. Other times you get lost. So I find that unless you really spend time feeling, what do I want? What's the essence of it? And also examining what doesn't feel good, what hasn't worked in the past, like you mentioned with your dog. So sometimes people will say, well, I want a dog to look a certain way or type of breed of dog, but you said something about being playful. I want a playful, loving dog. Because sometimes I've seen people where they had the dogs and they're not happy with them because the dog is cute, but their personalities are very difficult. So we can also, when we manifest people into our lives, a relationship, associates, friends, what kind of people, what kind of temperament do you want? Do you want high energy people, or do you want loving people, or stimulating people, easygoing people? You have to kind of know clarity, what it is, the form and the essence of what you want to manifest, because you can manifest forms, but if you don't get the payoff, the essence of what it's going to make you feel, then that form is empty and hollow. It becomes dissatisfying.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that you mentioned feelings a lot. How important is feelings, or how important are feelings and emotions when you're trying to um, create goals for yourself?
Anything you manifest in your life, anything, I don't care if it's money or relationships or health or enlightenment, the payoff is the feeling, the emotion. That's what human beings are guided by. You know, if you look at the stock market, people are investing and they're doing this. It's because some get excited because it's almost like gambling sometimes, but they're also trying to invest and get a certain result back because they feel like if they have more money, then they feel, oh, better, I'm richer. And then the stock market goes down, they feel like, oh, I have less now. Oh, so like I was recently investing in cryptocurrency, something new I was doing. So I noticed I had invested a little bit of money and it went 10 times up. And I was like, oh, this is great. But then I knew it was peaking out. And I was like, oh, so I sold it. And then within a couple of days, it had gone down. It had lost 50% of its value. Wow. And, you know, a lot of people were bummed out because it's a very volatile market. But some people like the gamble. Some people are just playing around with it. But you really have to know what it is you want to feel, because again, you can say, look, I want a brand new car. But I would say to that person, well, how would you feel if they had that brand new car? They say, well, I feel good about myself. I'm successful. Or it may just be somebody wants a reliable car that can get them from point A to B. And I know you would agree, Bacon, from A to B. And they want something that's reliable. So they might just say, well, to be an ideal car is reliability. Another person might say, hey, I look good, you know, in this, you know, $40,000 car. You have to know for yourself. And I can't tell anybody when I work with them what it is that they want to feel from that creation. So you have to know what you want to feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice part of clarity isn't just being clear about what you want, but being clear about the type of person that you want to be and the type of, you know, how you want to feel, you know, when you've achieved all that success. I noticed that clarity isn't just being clear in what you want, but it's all the other aspects that's involved as well. Yeah. So let's go back to your game. In your game, do you have type of like, I'm really good, I really emphasize clearing, like clearing distances. So in your game, do you have an aspect of like tools that people can use when they're you know, using the game, that they can clear certain like resistances?
When you play Attracted, and you set a goal and how you want to feel, and you play the game by pulling the cards as you're going around the game board and interacting with the other people, it expands your awareness and accelerates the law of attraction. Part of that process, it's not just simply setting a goal and how you want to feel. You have to remove your blockages. As I was actually creating Attracted, I was playing Attracted to get clear. And that's actually how I manifested the money to actually do the first production run and to attract a team and to do all the things. So what I find is that when people are playing the game, and I think when I played with you, I think we played a 2-person game, but when I'm working with a group or sometimes with one person, sometimes they'll get very emotional because they're like setting the goal and the feeling, and all of a sudden, all the subconscious stuff that's been resisting, or their fears and anxieties or doubts, they surface. So some of the processes built into it will help you clear and transmute or transform your consciousness, because what you're manifesting in reality is your consciousness. But we actually have a card in the game. It's one of the actual instruction things. It's clearing resistance. When you're creating your reality, living your life moment to moment, you want to be in touch with your emotions. You want to be set, you know, when you're creating things, you want to say, okay, does this feel right for me? Does this not feel right for me? You want to be constantly sort of like, not constantly, but you want to be present with your emotions. And so this is one of the skills of the law of attraction is, one, knowing what you're feeling. And number two, if you're feeling something you don't want, getting to the root of that. Now, sometimes that might mean, oh, I'm feeling this emotion. Why am I feeling that? Like if you feel fear, say somebody wants to manifest something, all of a sudden they feel anxious. I would say to them, why are you feeling that? What would you need to believe in order to be feeling that? Because anytime you feel something, that is based on a belief. You know, if the stock market goes down, one person might be like, like another day, the market goes up and down. They're not fazed by it. Another person who might be a novice investor might go, oh my God, I just lost 5% of all my money, and they're freaking out, because they might believe that any change in the stock market, anything going down, is negative. Another seasoned investor would be like, well, you have up days, down days, and the market will come back, and it generally does. So always your emotions are influenced by your beliefs. Therefore, you need to be keenly aware of what you're feeling and know how to work with it. Now, this is important because there is a teaching out there. I'm not going to name the metaphysical teacher, but they often teach, just feel good. They'll say, you're not feeling good today? Just focus on the good. Now, in theory, that's not bad. But if you do that all the time and you have like a real recurring issue, if you're really resisting or suppressing something and you keep on stuffing it down, that is actually not healthy. That is a time when you stop and say, okay, I'm really feeling anxious about that. What is the root of that? Then when you change that belief, you'll find you go back to an equilibrium. For example, somebody says, we've talked about being playful and magical. So let's say somebody says, well, if I don't meditate an hour every day with a specific meditation, I will fail. I won't achieve enlightenment or something. They'll have this idea, and they're very devoted. So what I found was that after a while, if I became obsessed with any spiritual discipline and I was forcing myself to do it, that wasn't natural. That wasn't actually helping the process. It was holding me back. Now, if I was just like paving over my emotions and I said, oh, I should ignore those feelings of resistance, I'd be suppressing it and basically acting inauthentic. But if I stop and say, okay, what am I feeling? What's my resistance? I might say, well, you know what? I'm going to push through this. And I feel like, okay, I'm going to do my spiritual discipline today. Or B, maybe I need to do it a different way or mix it up a little bit. Or maybe to reach enlightenment, I don't have to do all these things in this particular way. I don't have to be so regimented and rigid. So you have to like work with the emotions and become sophisticated in that. It's not just about setting a goal and doing your spiritual process, your meditation or whatever it is, or your affirmation or techniques, but it's really learning about yourself and your emotions and then being able to alter your emotions. But it's sophisticated. It takes practice. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is a process. And it's funny that you mentioned that, you have to meditate an hour, because I used to do that before. I used to be so regimented, like, oh, I really have to meditate for a full hour, and then otherwise I won't be enlightened. So there's that fear. And I find that it doesn't really make me happy. So now I still do it, but I do it on my own time, and because I enjoy it, not because like it's like, oh, I really have to do it. So yeah, it's going back to that playfulness again, because like without it there's no flow. If you forget why you're doing something, there's no playfulness. It becomes very routine.
You have to question beliefs. So sometimes when you feel like you have to do something, the simple question that the viewers can ask is, where did that belief come from? Like some people say, this guru, I really love this guru. This guru is the way, and you got to do it like the guru. And then I'd say, well, where did that belief come from? And sometimes they'll say, well, the guru told me, or somebody who liked the guru said you should do this, or somebody said you should do transcendental meditation or do this process. And that's the way, and you adopt the system. So even when, you're watching the news, we've had all sorts of like a crazy year. A lot of things are going on in the world and our country. When I'm watching the news, I took the advice of a independent newscaster named Cheryl Atkinson, where she says, when you're watching the news, ask yourself, who wants me to believe this and why? Who wants me to believe? So sometimes you're hearing stuff and you're like, okay, who wants me to believe this and why? And then say, what are the actual facts? What are the actual facts? And so it's about being more conscious. So I'm looking at the world. So let's say you think of something terrible that happens in the world. Who wants me to believe this and why? Let's say some horrible crime is committed. Now, there are 8 billion people on this planet, 8 billion, I think, or close to it. Now, if in a day 100 people commit crimes, I'm sure it's more, but let's say 100 crimes and one of them is really heinous, and then somebody comes on TV and says, oh my God, society is falling apart. You have to say, wait a minute, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Most people get up, they go to work, they walk their dogs, they shout, they're not doing crimes. It's maybe 1% or 1% or 1% or 1%, but why do they want me to believe it? a lot of times with the media, it's because they want you to watch their TV show. They want you to live on edge. They want you to be caught up in the drama, instead of maybe having a thoughtful discussion about issues. In some cases, not at all, because there are things that come up that we have to examine as a society. But who wants to believe this and why? And then with your own beliefs, where did that come from? Some come from you talk about clearing, some come from your family, from something your mother did or your father did or an uncle or a grandparent, something from society or a teacher said to you. Sometimes it's from a past life. Sometimes it's from something that's happening in the culture at large. There's many different reasons. And so to really become fully empowered, you have to sort of peel apart all those layers. And so that's the discovery part of the law of attraction is what's real? What would I like to create? As far as I know, you can create any reality that you want as long as you believe it. But to get to that, you have to let go of a lot of stuff that you've been told or conditioned with.
Yeah, that's the thing I realized as well. It's actually unlearning a lot of it.
Yes.
Unlearning, all of the things that you were taught as a child. And, we were given mental faculties by the higher intelligence, but then we don't use it because we've been conditioned to think inside the box instead outside the box. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the major work of what we're doing right now is breaking down the belief system. So, for example, I'm talking to you now. I am living in a 4,000 square foot home alone.
Mhm.
I'm not paying any rent. And all my debts are paid in full. So several months ago, I was in a living situation I didn't like. I wanted to make a change, and I wasn't quite sure. And I kept on affirming, all my bills are paid in full. I now have my ideal living space and environment. I kept on affirming it. And through a whole weird series of synchronicities, I'm now in a pretty lovely neighborhood in a very quiet space. All my bills are paid in full. Actually, I have a surplus of money, and more money is coming in. But I had to recondition my consciousness. But if I had said to myself or somebody else, you know what, I'm going to find a living situation. I'm living in a gigantic house by myself where I don't pay any rent. People say, you're crazy. You can't. Maybe you may be able to do it, but most people can't do it. Yet I did. So this has shown me that anything is possible. If you shift your consciousness. And part of the game aspect, which I really enjoy now, is what I do is when I'm trying to create something, now I say, okay, I'll put out this affirmation or this visualization. I'll say, let's see what happens next. Not like it has to show up next week or this has to happen. I'll just say, let's see what happens. And so I found that very interesting in all the aspects of my life where now I put the thing out and I just see what comes back. And it's often very interesting how things manifest in a surprising way, far beyond the mind, because the mind is very limited. It can only look at what's experienced or what's happened in the past to kind of project into the future. But the future isn't created from the past. It's created, in the moment. And it could be anything you want, really.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's why we have to get outside of our conscious mind. That's why we actually have to access the different levels of our mind, especially our higher selves, our higher consciousness, and also even just going into the subconscious mind to change things. So talking about subconscious mind, so because what you call that this game, like how often do you have to play it so that you can have like results in your life? Because usually with other tools that people use for subconscious work is they have to do it, as you said, you were affirming a lot of times that you're in your ideal place. But with regards to this game though, how often do you need to play this before you see a result?
Okay, so two things. One is subconscious. So people say subconscious, they think, well, something that's hidden, that's not, apparent, it's programmed in. When something goes from subconscious to conscious, you become aware of it. Technically speaking, it's no longer subconscious. If I realize I have a fear about something, I say, oh, I have a fear about such and such. Oh, well, now I'm conscious of it. So the way Attractive really works is that when you're playing the game and pulling the cards and working with the process, some are very short, some are more detailed, some work with energy. that basically is bringing up things from the subconscious, allowing you to engage in it, allowing you to transform it, allowing you to align with your intention and become clear. You're basically worshiping your goal. People talk about worshiping Jesus or this religion or this, philosophy. You basically learn to worship your intention, your goal and feeling statement. Now, I've played the game now thousands of times with so many people all over the world. So my experience is that if you're playing a solo game, only ever play it one time a day. Now you can always pull a card at random. That's one of the ways you can play the game is you just set a goal, and on a daily basis you can pull one of the blue attracted cards, and there's also these red cards in the game which are kind of like a course in law of attraction. But generally speaking, I would only play it one time a day, because I found that if I try to do it more than that, everything would become very accelerated. And I've had people where they would come and play just one game, just one time, and they would manifest something the next day or a week later or something, just from playing the game one time and never even focusing on the goal again. Other things, like if you're changing a major area of your life, like prosperity or something, which has many belief systems and many feelings and all sorts of patterns going on there, that might take several months to work through. So it really varies upon the individual, what they're focusing on. But I've had weird calls from people that are like, yeah, I went in with that health issue and then my illness went away, or a check came the next day, and I'm like, okay, because we built up a certain amount of psychic energy and it went out to the universe and came back. Mm-hmm. So it really varies on the goal and what you're trying to manifest and where you're at with that goal.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna pick up the game again. Because after I left, we did it pretty regularly. I think we did it almost every week, or someone like invited me, and we formed a group actually where we're gonna do it. We were gonna do it regularly, and but unfortunately I left. So yeah, but definitely I'm gonna play it again.
It's a process. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I found that after a while, a lot of the tools became integrated in my consciousness. Like we have a card about beliefs. So it's like, so what would be a belief that would support my goal? What's a belief that I'd be resisting? There's revision, where you change, you rewrite something. So many of these things, after you played the game, after a while, if you played it on a daily basis, even just for a few minutes, eventually those things become integrated into your consciousness, and all of a sudden, it moves from being a game that you're playing, with the game board, and all the little, the little pieces and everything. And, because we have the little cute little meeples, the little, the things that, the timer and everything, the dice, and it becomes your life, and your life becomes the attractive game. And so you're playing, you're saying, okay, how do I want my reality to look right now? How do I want to feel? And then you apply the tools, and then you're living in that consciousness all the time. And so that's really why I created the game. So people would eventually condition themselves to basically be clear about their goals, be conscious, and if something comes up, how to clear it, how to move around things. I just had an instance the other day where somebody got irritated me. I don't know why, because I'm such a lovely person, but I triggered somebody. So I knew, okay, number one, don't take on the emotion, let go of that. Number two, transmit them love. And so I took it down from like a very extreme situation to like, it was very common. I was like, okay, but that's living a conscious lifestyle. That's like really law of attraction, is how conscious do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to create? How happy do I want to make it? And am I willing to apply the principles? And I guarantee you, whether it's my game or other law of attraction principles that you find that work, just apply it as consistently as you can. Be patient with yourself, but do it and stay conscious, and you will see the reality change if you're persistent with it and consistent.
Yeah, that's what I've been practicing. Actually, I shifted my focus right now. There's people that make me upset, and then I just snap out of it. I'm like, I have a choice now. Do I want my external reality to affect me, or do I want to be the one to affect change? Because like sometimes people cut you off and you become unconscious at the moment, and then suddenly you snap out of it. I'm like, oh, I have a choice whether to allow this person to, dominate the picture, or is it me that's gonna dominate? So it's a daily, you're right, it's a daily thing. It's a conscious daily conscious effort. But
The,
yeah.
the other day, I was driving back to my home, and so I'm kind of in a not I'm like I'm in a little small town, not a small town, but a town, but it's quiet. On certain days the streets are kind of quiet. Anyway, I think it was Sunday or something, and so there was a guy, and he had like one of those bicycles where it has like a little back area for his dog, and so it looks like a mini car basically. So he's going along the street, and literally he drove into the street and cut me off. He didn't even look where he was going, cut me off, cut across like 4 lanes of the street.
Wow.
Another car did it, and then I just followed him because he went into my complex, into the area, and he was like doing all these crazy things. And so I noticed that I see a lot of people, as I become more conscious, I see a lot of unconscious people. I see people on phones. I see people doing things, just doing strange things. And so I try to stay safe. So it's almost like defensive driving. So I call it like defensive creating a reality. You're watching what other people are doing and saying, okay, how do I handle this person wisely? So as a tip to the listeners, there are basically 8 essential things that can throw you off. So I call it MATEfuls, which is an acronym.
Mhm.
So MATEfuls is the mass consciousness, appearances, people,
Mhm.
the ego mind, which is constantly going, fears,
Mhm.
illusions,
Mhm.
limitations,
Mhm.
and believing you're separate from God or the universe.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, when things come up, I know that the MATEfuls, the mass conscious appearances, people, the ego mind, fears, limitations, illusions, separation, they're not real. They have no power over my consciousness or your consciousness. So I'm constantly watching that, constantly watching. So if somebody's unkind to you or unloving to you or unconscious, I know that it's only an illusion that I have to buy into that reality. So if somebody's unkind to you, I have the power to love them. If somebody's acting strangely, I can act with wisdom. If somebody's coming at me with like a heavy energy, I can stay clear. I can be solid like a tree and let the wind kind of blow by me. So that's the other thing is I don't try to force situations to be a certain way anymore. I change my consciousness in relation to them. And that generally changes how people react to me and how my reality shapes around me. Because you can't control people. You can't control what they're going to do.
That's right. And that's a lot of effort too, and yeah, I find that I don't take things personally.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't.
Yeah. It's like, and before I used to make a story like, oh, that person's doing this because that. And then you start dropping into the unconscious. And then now I easily snap out of it. I'm like, you know what? I have a choice at this moment whether to follow this to down the rabbit hole or just be happy and choose happiness. Yeah.
Everyone's doing the best they know how, and you never know when you interact with somebody what they've been through, what their childhood was like, what issues that are going on with them. I had something recently happen with somebody where we had a disagreement about something political, and I was having a conversation. I believe in talking to people of different perspectives and saying, well, I always will validate and say, well, I understand what you're saying based on your belief system, what you believe, and here's what I believe. And if usually I can have an exchange of ideas and we validate each other, we may completely disagree at the end, but at least we're like at a level field. Anyway, I said something to this person and they freaked out like you would not believe. And they went from like being like nice and friendly to being like almost like a crazy person. And they eventually became incensed and, whatever, cut off contact with me. But I felt at peace because I knew that I had been respectful for them. I've been loving with them. And I also understood that this was a trigger point from them. And I didn't know what was going on. Maybe they had felt disempowered in the past. And then if I disagreed with them, they freaked out, whatever it was. But I just think it's really important that at this time, especially, we may not agree with everybody, but we do our best to love other people. And when I'm in conflict with somebody or having an issue with somebody, I simply look at them and I say, you are pure awareness exploring reality. I am pure awareness exploring reality. So I take the ego out. I look at people. If I look at you now, I'll say, okay, I'll see your physical form. And then I'll say, let's say I'm in conflict with something about you. I'll just imagine that your physical body is in there and I just see you as a pure being of light, that we're connected on that level. and that your ego, your personality, your beliefs, blah, blah, it doesn't matter. I let go of all the separation conscious. I let go of all the separation between me and you and anybody else in humanity, no matter what they look like, what they do, what they say. And I love them. Whether they love me back or not, I love them. And when I do that, there's two benefits. One is they're getting a benefit because I'm not getting locked into a drama with them, but also because what I put out comes back to me. And I generally find that my reality is pretty loving. I live in a pretty loving reality where people are generally nice to me. Occasionally something comes up because I interact with a lot of people, but even if that happens, I try to leave it on a loving note. So when we're manifesting things, yeah, you want that car, or that soulmate, or this or that, whatever it is. But I think, what a lot of people want is they want to be loved. They want to be received and welcomed and embraced and cherished, validated sometimes. And we can all give that to each other. We can give that creation to each other and say, look, I love you. I appreciate you. I accept you as you are. And if you do that for them, you're doing that for yourself. And that's a positive, beneficial aspect of the law of attraction, is spreading out that consciousness. Because you know what? There's plenty of love. There's plenty of abundance. Any resource that people want, anything that people want, even power. You see people fighting a lot about power now. There's plenty of power to share. Plenty of power to share if we just love each other enough. And we can do that. We have a choice, as you said. You can choose to do that and elevate things, bring it to a higher level.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, I find that all of the things you're saying right now, like I'm already living that, it is that, as you said, it's a lifestyle. And it's being conscious all the time, and making that choice whether to, pursue that negativity or, just live with kindness and love. So yeah. Yeah, 2 years. Go ahead. What?
Yeah, and that's the kind of world we want to create in. The other. So when I developed Attracted, this was one version of the game. We already have another prototype for the abundance game, which is when you set a goal related to money or career. But one of the other experimental games was what we called the global game. So the global game is, instead of setting a goal for yourself, you're doing it for the world. Like I live in a world of free energy. I live in a world of peace. Or I live in an enlightened world, or whatever. And so when you do that, when you're playing that Attracted game, which eventually will come out, you start vibrating into that reality. So there's your personal reality. Okay, I will vibrate with the reality I prefer and manifesting certain goals. And then also, but what kind of world do I want to live in? Maybe I could live in a world of abundance and peace and a good climate and everything. You can, that's another level of attracting things. And I just wanted to thank you and acknowledge you, because first of all, for having me, in this interaction, but also you did a lovely thing for me, which is I've been putting out that I wanted to sell more of my games. And I had a little bit of a hiatus for a while with the virus. I wasn't playing Attracted that much. I wasn't selling the game. I was still selling them, but not as much as I would usually. And then you said, hey, Egan, there's this other, host that does like law of attraction. So you actually guided me to another show, which I did, which was an interesting experience, which is a very interesting experience, but I had put that out there. So I'm finding now that I'm clear on who I am, what my goals are, what I want to feel. I work with it on a daily basis with Attracted, with other tools, and then it just is reflected back to me. So it becomes a point where it does become effortless, and then you forget that you were ever trying to struggle to create a life, that you're actually already there. So it's a wonderful journey. It's a journey of growth,
Yeah, and what's funny too, I always knew about that show. I've been a fan of that show for several years, and then I'm like, why didn't I connect them together?
Yeah.
And then when you texted and asked, where are you at? And I'm like, oh my God, like it just clicked, like a light bulb moment. I'm like, you know what? I have to connect this. I have to connect Egan to the Law of Attraction Network, because it just made sense,
Well, everything happens in perfect timing. So, sometimes people say, well, why didn't this come sooner? I could have done this. But you know what? It happened at the perfect time. And so that's a part of surrendering with the Law of Attraction, which is, okay, I put my goal. I know what I want. Now maybe there's a timing where things are lining up, or I'm being prepared to vibrate with that reality. This came at the perfect timing. Your support, I always appreciate you. You were early on in the development of the game. And I enjoyed playing the game with you and your support. And with so many wonderful people. Now they're playing it around the world, Asia, Europe. So, it's kind of spreading now. So it's kind of interesting to see how it's grown. But yeah, everything happens in perfect timing. And when I created Attracted, I was like, well, in a month, I want to sell 1 million. Well, it did happen like that, but I grew through the process and I matured, and actually I'm at peace with it. I feel like I'm right on schedule with what I'm doing. And so for all the listeners, whatever you're trying to manifest, when you're getting frustrated, patience, sometimes, people like want things now in this instantaneous society, but I really had to learn patience, trusting things, surrendering, appreciating the journey, like of what you're learning, and being gentle with myself. People are like very, hard on themselves. And sometimes part of what you're attracting is being loving to yourself as you're growing. You might be making mistakes. You might be having a great day, a bad day. It seems like it's a mess. Just loving yourself. Because if you can love yourself and be patient with yourself, that'll vibrate out into your reality. You'll find people being patient and loving with you and supportive.
That's good. Thank you. So for the listeners and the viewers, where can they find your website and your game board?
Oh, thank you. These are the game sets we're selling. The website is Attract It Games, ATTRACTITGAMES.com. It's my website. These aren't sold in stores currently, but eventually it will happen. I'm actually almost at the end of my supply of the first run of the game. So grab one while you can, because we're going to be going in production hopefully in the next 6 months with the next version of the game. Won't vary that differently. The packaging will be a little bit different, but attractedgames.com. You can buy the game set. You can buy a couple of game sets. I have a workshop leader who's going to be playing it with her whole large event. And then I also do coaching sessions where somebody wants to work through an issue. I play the game with them, or they can buy the game and a coaching session where I can show them how to play the game, because it takes a little bit of a learning curve to just get it right. You can play the game alone, solo, or one-on-one with people, or a group of people. Up to like 9 people I found is effective. So it's kind of a great little thing. And there's also the red cards in the game, which are kind of like, you don't use it in the game, but it's like a course in law of attraction. They're more like daily meditations. But attractedgames.com, happy to talk with anybody who's organizing events too. If they're planning to do like a group game like you were doing, I've worked with several people where I help them facilitate a group events to make them successful and to have a fun experience.
That's good. That's great. Is it available overseas as well, or just the US and Canada, or?
It is. The tricky thing is when they order from the website, if it's overseas, I just ask that they could buy the game, and then I have to figure out the postage, because I just sent one to, there was one in Hong Kong I sent one to, and one in Thailand, so they were far places. So I had to go and see. First of all, I get, some of these places, and, one time it was in Germany and Denmark, so I have to see, but it may take a little time to get there, but it will get there. But generally I found most places I'm able to get it to. The United States is no problem. And some people also have couriers where they buy it and they send it to a courier service in the United States, and then they send it to another location. So far, so good.
That's great. That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait. And hopefully, this video and this podcast will help you out as well in spreading, this wonderful game.
Well, I wish all the people out there, whether they get attracted or not, or whatever you do, I just wish all your dreams come true. We are creators. We're here to have fun and to create and to learn from the creating. And that's the game. So whatever you're doing, whatever discipline is, just make it a game, have fun with it, put something out, see what comes back, be curious, have that sort of relaxed approach, and may all of you attract whatever it is you want to create.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.